Bon appetit!
Ratatouille is one of my favourite Pixar movies. It's a really creative and well-written movie, and I'm actually kind of thankful that it hasn't spawned any subsequent lazy sequels. I dread the day they announce Ratatouille 2, or Ratatouille.
The second course.
As it is, it remains fresh in my mind as a standout Pixar movie. Coinciding with its release, there were a number of video games, including a PS2 release which loosely follows the events of the film. The initial consensus from critics was that it was tepid. And yet, despite its lukewarm reception, it seems this game was surprisingly well received by the general public.
Indeed, Ratatouille the game has proven to be unexpectedly popular. Now I know what you're thinking.
How could it be popular?
Well, Mr. Ego, let's take a look.
The game begins somewhere in France.
That's not lazy research on my part, it's genuinely somewhere in France.
Here we play as Remy, who's been given a job of poison checker on account of his amazing sense of smell. Before long, he's joined by his dad and brother Emile.
There's more stuff to be collected, boys, so get moving. Stop eating all our supplies.
What supplies?
It's your job to collect apple cores for the colony while the old lady of the cottage is still sleeping, and simultaneously endure an unsurprisingly dull tutorial at the hands of your larger, less agile brother Emile. Although admittedly it's kind of funny being taught the basics by somebody who's completely incapable.
You okay, Emile? Let me show you how it's done.
Otherwise it's your average Disney tutorial. You know, in case you'd forgotten how to double jump from the last 40 times you did it in other games. By pressing square, Remy can cling and crawl along netting, and by pressing square while in the air, you can balance on poles and scurry across narrow ledges.
Thank you.
You can also walk along ropes and wires, making sure to keep Remy balanced as he tightropes. Pressing the square button also makes Remy swing on poles, and attack using a tail swipe. And also lift and place objects to stand on. Yeah, it seems like the square button does everything. There are so many other buttons to choose from, but nope, square for everything. I mean, I get that it's a kid's game, but this feels a little too simple, you know?
Ah, look at the cute little chicks, aren't they adorable? Oh my god! What did they do to you?
Yep, this is happening. We're murdering helpless chicks for apple cores.
Ah, screw the apple cores. Who wants chicken dinner?
Indeed, if Remy finds a conveniently placed wooden spoon, he can use it as a more powerful means of attack. Of all the items of cutlery you could choose to attack with, you pick a spoon. I mean, really?
Suppose we have to be child-friendly. Still, it didn't stop Tarzan.
One of the most appealing aspects of this game for me is the ability to scurry like a rat with the R1 button. And it pretty much just looks like Dash, but in rat form.
I'm the Dash.
The problem is its appeal is ruined by Remy's tendency to trip over something every 5 seconds. It's really quite irritating. It perhaps wouldn't be so bad if the obstacles were easier to see from a distance, but some of them aren't even remotely visible at all. I mean, what did I trip over here exactly?
Look, some more apple cores. Use that super sniffer of yours to find them all. I'll meet you when you're done.
Wait, why do I have to do all the work?
Remy also has a powerful sense of smell, and by holding L1, he can sniff out items and hints to progress through a level. I wonder where they got that idea from. What is this, Scratatouille?
Hey, I wonder if those guys are related.
Of course not.
Once you've obtained all the apple cores, Remy wants the old lady's Gusteau cookbook, which is conveniently wedged in the window for no reason.
Daddy?
Just then, the old lady wakes up and goes on a rampage.
We're all gonna die!
Before long, we find ourselves being swept down a river using the book as a raft. This level creates the illusion and it's pretty exciting, but there's really no danger here. I mean, the idea is to keep up with your friends, but it's incredibly difficult to lose them no matter how many obstacles you hit. And even if you do lose them, you simply respawn and do it again. Eventually, we arrive at the sewers, soon to be our new home.
What? What's going on?
Excusez-moi. I am Chef Auguste Gusteau.
Once there, the spirit of Gusteau appears to us in a vision, just like in the movie. Well, sort of. Only the plot is severely condensed, so much so that it makes little sense. In the game alone, we don't know much about Remy at all. We just escaped an old lady's house with some apple cores, and now suddenly we're expected to single-handedly save a restaurant.
Rebuild Gusteau's? I think I can handle that.
Yeah, it would seem the narrative has taken a bit of a diversion. Anyway, we need to find our way through the sewers using the scent vision. Throughout the game, Remy collects stars. I'm not sure why. I'm assuming they're supposed to be restaurant stars or something. Otherwise, I don't get the relevance. Completing missions and collecting stars rewards you with Gusteau points, which you can then spend on extras, which we'll talk about later. Bags of stars can be opened with a simple tail swipe, while some boxes can be opened using the wooden spoon. And other larger boxes can only be destroyed using explosive hot sauce. Which is a rather concerning condiment, come to think of it.
My stomach is about to explode.
Think I'll stick to ketchup.
While in the sewers, we also come across the Ratatouille.
I get it.
I wonder what button we have to press to use it. Yep, square.
I would never have guessed.
We then have to navigate behind the walls to find the Paris streets. Remy soon finds himself at Gusteau's, and before he makes his escape, he's drawn to some soup that requires some attention. This is a pretty standard button challenge. You simply have to select Remy's suggestions to make the soup, which apparently involves throwing whole cauliflowers in there. I'm not sure Gusteau would approve. Once we're caught by Linguini, we then make our escape down a kitchen pipe. This is the first of 4 pipe levels, and they're surprisingly addictive. You simply have to slide down and collect the stars along the way, and it's actually pretty hard to do so. There are times when you can backtrack if you miss some, but I'm not sure you're expected to. I'm fairly certain this defies the laws of physics, but I want my stars, damn it! You can also hold R1 to lie down to speed up. Yeah, I'm just gonna take a lie down. You let me know when the level's over, yeah? Once we make it back to the sewers, your dad finds you and immediately sends you to retrieve a bucket of leftovers from the courtyard outside the kitchen, guarded by 2 ferocious dogs.
Thanks, Dad. It's great to see you again, too.
While here, we need to distract one of the dogs using a bone, which you can find in a dustbin. Once in the courtyard, we meet Git, who requests that you use some spoons to disable the rat traps. One thing I neglected to mention earlier is this game's lackluster attempt at stealth. Here you need to avoid the dog while hunting for rat traps to destroy, but even if you get caught, you simply have to wiggle the analog stick a bit and hey presto, you're free! You do lose health gradually while being held, but when the enemies are so easy to escape, it really defeats the object of being so stealthy. Also, when Remy is caught, he doesn't so much scream in horror, he just seems to groan as though it's a mild inconvenience. Well, it pretty much is. Now and again you'll find conveniently placed boxes or colanders to hide underneath to avoid the gaze of humans and predators. But it's altogether rather stupid. You just have to keep inching yourself forward as you wait for the gauge in the corner to reset. I mean, how stupid are these enemies? They're literally watching a box walk past them and they're somehow none the wiser. If you do manage to get caught, you can always refill your health with cheese.
They've served me well so far.
Despite being surrounded by a lot of better, healthier food throughout the game. Just saying. Anyway, with the traps out of the way, we can climb the building to see the next rat. I don't know her name, so let's just call her Shaniqua.
Listen, on the rooftops, there's a coin we need in a nest. Find it, then drop it down the rain gutter.
The objective here is simply to avoid the cats and make our way to the nest to free the coin.
Hurry up, Remy. Emil's waiting for you to start the mission.
Okay, I'm on it.
Once this is done, we can head over to Emil, who gets you to signal to the rats to execute the plan. Whatever it is.
They never told me what the plan is, so I'm just kind of winging it, to be honest.
The rats then take turns to do their own thing. Twitch needs help short-circuiting the alarm system, which boils down to another dull button sequence thing. Once the alarm draws Linguini outside, Shaniqua drops the coin down the pipe, which apparently distracts him long enough for us to pull off this heist.
Yeah, this requires more suspension of disbelief than the movie. And that had a rat controlling a human by his hair, for crying out loud.
I found a penny!
Git then needs help pulling the bucket of scraps, which requires us to charge a power gauge and press X when the meter returns to the accuracy mark. Yeah, it sounds really complicated, but it's really not. The next part is frankly mind-numbing. You need to help your friends escape with the food simply by pressing the buttons that appear on screen.
I guess it's a good thing they're making use of the other buttons besides the square button for a change.
Instead of boss segments, this game has chase levels, and to be honest, they're very well designed. The problem is, as I said before, when Remy runs, he trips over everything in sight, which becomes irritating after a while. That and I kind of find it amusing just how far these people will go to chase down one rat. I mean, in a kitchen maybe, but chasing a rat through the city seems a little much.
Either I hit my head harder than I thought, or you're the rat that helped me with the soup.
You know what? You could have realized that before you tried to kill me.
How about I promise not to chase you anymore, and you promise to teach me to cook?
I love that we've gone from bludgeoning a rat with a wine bottle to having a full-on conversation and forming a pact with him in less than a minute.
You know, I think this might be the start of something very special.
I've played better.
Anyway, after evading Linguini, we're confronted with leaky pipes.
That's what I get for ordering the Vindaloo again.
Contrary to what you might be thinking, it's another slide, filled to the brim with more easily missable stars. Isn't that lovely?
Oh yeah!
By this point, we can explore our home. It doesn't exactly look great right now, but each level has its own special collectible collectible item, and finding all of them rewards you with something to spruce up your home, even if it is just a set of darts. Yeah, that was worth it. You can also enter the little rat houses. If you find a watch, you can save, although I'm not sure why they bothered with this feature, considering the game auto-saves after every single completed mission anyway. There's also a random rafting level, which sees you paddle down the rapids, but despite how exciting it might appear, this is basically a rehash of the other level. And any stars you miss, you can paddle against the rapids to retrieve. Okay, so here's the thing. Arguably the most memorable thing about this game is its mini-games. As you explore the main levels, you'll come across plates of food which activate dream worlds. These are essentially worlds of giant food, including fruit salads, pasta, steak, cheese, and even nightmares of giant dirty dishes. Despite the bland platforming, these areas are fairly enjoyable simply because of their layout and visuals, and the stars are not always easy to find. Often you'll need to keep an eye out for a secret platform that will take you to a hidden location, or explore various alternate routes before progressing to the finish line. These mini-games aren't really anything special, but they prove to be a fitting departure from the mundanity of the main game, and I'm not really sure if that's a compliment or not. Okay, they're a visual treat, and they can be kind of fun sometimes, but the fact that I'd rather play a very average mini-game over the main game itself leaves me feeling somewhat disappointed. Anyway, for the next level, Remy's dad wants us to retrieve food from the kitchen.
So you want me to take food? I'm not sure that's right.
Son, it's for the colony.
And for a presidents everywhere!
Oh, sorry. Wrong colony.
On a positive note, the kitchen looks fantastic. The scale of everything and the bustling atmosphere really make you feel like a rat.
In a good way, I mean.
We need to maneuver the kitchen, avoiding the fellow chefs, including the head chef, Skinner.
I hope you're prepared for an unforgettable luncheon.
No, not that Skinner. That's the one. You're right, have you been?
There are also other enemies to be wary of, including angry sea urchins. Or something. And some lobsters hiding under pots who'll try to steal your stuff.
Ha! Joke's on you, Pinchy! Pinchy!
Anyway, first we need to find our way over to the main gas switch to turn all the burners off, before we can see what Git wants us to do.
Linguini!
We're roped into doing some cooking.
We need the chef special. We need it now.
Well, since you asked so nicely.
Indeed, this level is broken up by some cooking mini-games. Here we control Linguini as we plod around a kitchen looking for stuff to cook in a time limit. You know what? I'm really looking forward to this. The movie's all about cooking, and here we finally get to exercise our wildest video game fantasies, like peeling potatoes and making a salad.
What an age we live in.
To make the salad, we simply have to hover over the various ingredients and select the ones Remy suggests. While peeling potatoes requires some hardcore analog stick twiddling. Yeah, in case you hadn't noticed, these mini-games are a little bland.
Not bad.
Not bad? Hey, I'll have you know I slaved over a hot stove. Oh, wait. Did anyone else notice we didn't actually cook anything?
If the chef's special is raw potato slices, I dread to think what the rest of the menu's like.
Later in the level, we experience a repeat of the tedious super mini-game we played earlier, and also a button sequence challenge that sees Linguini decorate a cake for some reason. You made the cake like a chef.
I mean, I'm not really sure how to take that, as traditionally bakers make cakes, but whatever, I'll accept it.
So anyway, Git then tells us we need to get to the closet doorknob, and we can do this in the most convoluted way possible by openly performing acrobatics in front of the people we're supposed to be hiding from. I actually got caught here, but once the guy caught me, he just kind of stood there, dropped me, and then continued to cut some vegetables.
Yeah, if the raw potatoes didn't put you off the place, the bad hygiene should.
In fact, the stealth in this level is kind of funny. There are times when they might see you, but as long as you hide, they don't care. Nobody seems to give a shit that there's a rat in the kitchen. Out of sight, out of mind, I guess. Man, how did you attain 5 stars for your restaurant in the first place? This is horrific. With the closet door secured with a rope, we then have to find the key to the food safe. Finally, we need to direct the various rats just like we did before. Only this time there's a new minigame in which we need to use a blowpipe to get the correct food from the safe. Yes, the correct food.
Let me remind you guys, we are rats. I don't think we can afford to be too picky.
It's fortunate for you that the humans are extremely stupid. They just kind of stand around while rats are shifting whole watermelon slices in front of them. We're then chased by the apparently short-sighted Skinner through the kitchen, which is apparently a shit tip suddenly. These pots and pans most definitely were not here before. In fact, you know what? Skinner's done more damage to his kitchen than the rats did. This next slide is a little more difficult as the pipes are all rusted and worn away. But you know what? We really have some momentum going. I'm excited. Look at me go. This is going to be one hell of a finish.
Oh! rats.
The next level sees us explore the city market, a perfect replica of that scene that wasn't in the movie. Regardless, this level looks fantastic. It's just a shame it follows the exact same formula as previous levels, as we simply have to help the rats with their insipid tasks again.
Your first assignment is to find a fuse and bring it to me.
A fuse? What for?
I need it to start the forklift.
All right, I'll do it.
I love that there are no other questions here. The rat wants to drive a forklift. Who am I to stop him? Hey, it can't be any worse than Yellow's attempt.
First, we need to dispose of the thieving crabs intent on stealing the fuse.
Boom, baby!
Cusco? Is that you?
Boom, baby!
Then, once we've given the fuse to Twitch, Git instructs us to find and move some food items for the rats to collect later. Oh, who am I kidding? For me to collect later.
Hey, Remy, you ready for more?
Why, yes, I am ready for more, haha. Thank you for asking.
Finding the food items isn't too difficult here. The people walking around aren't too hard to avoid despite the constant background hubbub, but Jesus are they terrifying!
Begone, demon child!
We then need to follow the old lady through the market and dump the food in her bag without being seen, which sounds difficult, but it becomes a lot easier when you realize she's apparently blind. Hello, can you see me? Once we've crammed all the food into her trolley, we then have to direct the rats again. First, Twitch needs to power the forklift to carry the old lady's trolley to the conveyor, almost running over the poor old deer in the process. We then need to step on the right buttons using R1 and L1 to activate the conveyor. With the trolley now in Git's hands, paws, we then have to enjoy the exact same rope pulling task we've played twice already.
Oh, the variety!
Wait, what? What's Skinner doing here? Does he just chase rats whenever he sees them? Ah, but there's more than one way to skin a rat. Perhaps he has a new strategy.
Oh, don't be stupid.
Indeed, as before, he just chases you and practically destroys the entire market. This time aided by the surprisingly agile blind lady, who all of a sudden miraculously gains the gift of sight and casually destroys everything in her path. Help! Ethel's on the loose!
Ooh, did you see that? That's gotta hurt. And we never see her again after this, so, yeah.
She died.
I will remember you.
With Skinner temporarily disposed of, we can slide back home again, and this pipe is so worn away it can barely even be considered a pipe. I mean, seriously, what purpose would this thing serve? Anyway, to access the final level, we once again speak to our dad, who informs us that most of the other chefs have jumped ship, and we need to help. Those who've seen the movie will know we're preparing a meal for the critic.
It stinks.
Not that critic. That's the one.
And yet, despite his prominence in the final scenes of the movie, we do not see Anton Ego once in this game, not even for a non-speaking role.
So you're telling me we've just got a bland final level filled with crappy cooking minigames? Fine.
So be it.
First, we need to get rid of Chef Skinner by somehow luring him to the floor polisher in the closet. We can do this by dropping stacks of plates on the floor. Although it's somewhat amusing that Skinner doesn't even attempt to pick them up. He just kind of stands there. If we then switch the floor polisher on, we can seal him in the closet.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
We then need to destroy the rat traps, either with spoons or by luring enemies into them. This sees the appearance of what I consider to be the most irritating enemies in the game. These shrimps in bags. They basically hop around the kitchen floor and knock you down all the time. You can eliminate them with the traps or your trusty spoon, but they don't stop respawning. It's frustrating as hell. We then find that Colette needs Gusteau's recipe book from the office, so naturally we have to go and fetch it for her. I mean, I'm not sure how they've been coping this long as a restaurant without following any recipes, but I'm not going to question it. Finally, we move on to the cooking part of this level. First, we need to flick some switches on and off to operate some whisks for some reason. And then we need to use the rats to select the correct ingredients for a salad and make that same old boring soup again. And last but definitely not least, we need to make another massive cake. I sure hope the critic has a big appetite.
So, did we do it? Did we pass?
Unfortunately, we'll never know because they don't actually tell us. Instead, Skinner manages to free himself and chases after you through the restaurant. That'll be good for business.
Because chasing me down went so well before, how could this fail?
Yeah, I'm not sure this is the best approach. Whether you manage to catch a rat or not, I'm not sure your customers will be returning anytime soon after witnessing this.
Check, please.
In fact, you know what? This is far more dramatic than in the movie. Not only does Gusteau's reputation come crashing down, but the entire building does too, apparently. Oh, and I just love the abruptness of this ending.
Well, little chef, it looks like Gusto's is ruined.
You think?
So anyway, what about those Gusto points? What do they actually do? Well, they can be used to purchase minigames from the menu, some of which are single player and some multiplayer. The single player games are simple timed challenges to see if you can beat your time on previously unlocked dream worlds, cooking challenges and slides. Though it would have been nice if they'd have provided a time limit to beat and a reward. Simply playing to beat your own time isn't really all that fun, addictive as it can sometimes be. The multiplayer games are even less impressive. There's a mildly amusing game in which you have to balance on some tomatoes and try to knock each other off an onion, a dull balancing game, an incredibly awkward item hunt level, and an impossible paddling raft race, in which the AI-controlled characters appear to be jet-propelled somehow. Jesus Christ, Speedy Gonzales, give me a sporting chance! They're your average party games, I guess. Nothing special, but nothing too horrendous either. You can also use your points to unlock promotional artwork, concept art, cheats, and other extras. There's even an unlockable nightmare mode, which basically makes Remy lose more health when hit or caught, but considering how tedious the game is anyway, why the hell would I want that? What I find strange is that despite completing all of the tasks and purchasing all the extras, I somehow wound up with 400 Gusto points left over. I mean, it's not a major complaint, just a bit of a loose end to me. I guess I might have missed something, but I don't think I did. Either way, there's more than enough extras here to satiate your appetite.
See what I did there?
The food possibilities are endless here.
I'll be honest, as much as I love the movie, I really don't think it lends itself well to a video game in the first place. I mean, it's about a rat who yearns to cook, for crying out loud. It's hardly Metal Gear Solid. But I can only defend the game so much, as there were opportunities here to try something more innovative for a movie game that were never truly realised. The game excels more when it attempts to shake things up with some cooking challenges. It's just a shame these challenges aren't the least bit challenging. I guess my biggest problem with the game is its simplicity. It's just too easy. Getting caught during the stealth sections doesn't really bear much of a consequence. I mean, remember Chicken Run? Chicken. That was an example of stealth in a movie game done right, even if Mrs. Tweedy is extremely short-sighted. One thing the game has going for it, in my opinion, is its visuals. The gameplay itself might be underwhelming, but there's no denying that this is a feast for the eyes, especially when it comes to depicting locations from the movie. The kitchen in particular, I found extremely engrossing. The combination of the game's impressive graphics and the movie's score really helps convey the sense that you're a part of the movie. But it falls short for a number of reasons. The missions themselves are bland and repetitive. Sure, the locations are initially pretty fun to explore, but once the missions are done with, there's not much else to sink your teeth into. With some more engaging gameplay, this game could have had so much more potential. Ratatouille for PS2 might be a visual treat, but as it is, it feels a little undercooked.
Oh yeah!
Check, please.
Popular.